Welcome to Ring Talk, Series 2, Episode 7. With me, I'm back, Martin Theobald. And Steve, how are you, Steve?
I'm good, my friend, very good. Busy, fresh after a busy weekend down in London. And a nice little show. Hopefully we'll get the shows back to better over. I mean, the show on Saturday was quite good, but we want to build up the shows and hopefully the board will allow us to do that going forward.
Yeah, the show was busy, wasn't it? Like, that's my take. I only got there late because I had to do some family stuff during the day Saturday. So I got there for the Webber-Chapman fight and then the Martin-Cyrus fight. But my impression when I walked in was, wow, this place is really busy tonight. Really good atmosphere around it. I was well impressed.
I mean, the thing was, we were told that on Friday, there was a show there Friday, it was absolutely bang empty all night. Very, very empty. But again, we think when we're dealt with the cards of 7 fights, we have to make sure that the people that are fighting are bringing something to the table as into the event to make the event last. I mean, gone are the days when a fighter turns up and says, "I've only done 40 tickets, help me out." That's in history now. You need a fighter to be able to fight. You need them to be able to sell. You need them to be able to bring something to the event. And if they don't, I'm afraid it doesn't work anymore. And you just have to be, from our point of view now, very much looking at every single aspect of a boxer's career. I mean, the last 11 fighters that have come to us, we've only signed 3 of them. So you've got to look and see what package they bring. And that's how it is. And to a certain extent, it probably doesn't help the purists, but we are looking for those sort of fighters we can develop onto the TV networks. But it does mean that at the moment, you've got a fair few journeymen against home fighters and not so many of what you class the 50-50s. I mean, there were 2 50-50s out of 7 on Saturday on paper. And I think that's a fair number. And the rest of them are learning fights. We had 4 debutants out of the 7. But you need debutants as well to start to build the career. So, but, I think there's a lot to look forward to. And hopefully the boss man at York Hall is confident that there's going to be an extension in the number of fights. So hopefully we'll hear about that if he's got that right.
Good. And credit to all the lads that are on. So say their support, their followers, they've made a massive difference to York Hall Saturday night. That was really good. They've done a great job. I mean, we'll cover the fights because I think there was some really good talent on and some fights that were really good fun that you missed as well. So, I mean, well, you're going to have to fill me in because I missed the first fight.
I'll talk you through it in order. So we started off with Lewis Frimpong against Luke Fash. Featherweight contest. Lewis is trained, he's one of the 2 twins. I think it's the first time in history we've had 2 twins debut on the same night. And Lewis Frimpong I thought, showed lots of class. He hurt Luke Flash many times. Luke got through it, but I think a round or 2 more he may have stopped him. I think Lewis is very talented, and he performed really well. I was really, really excited. Andy Gill's done a great job with him. So I thought that was really, really good. Bailey Donald was on second. He moved to 3-0 with a points win over Naeem Ali. I mean, that's a fight, and being really honest, you get what you get with that fight. Naeem Ali is just one of the top journeymen out there. You're never going to stop him. And so Bailey Donald just used it to get some more experience, moving on to 3-0. We then had the second Frimpong, Courtney, a super lightweight. He stopped Lee Devine in 2 rounds.
Impressive.
Lee's tough, very impressive, Courtney. Courtney was fast hands. Moved in. Again, Andy Gill, who's got a brilliant stable. He's got the 2 Frimpongs, Jamie Smith, who's a great cruiserweight, and a new young lady by the name of Juliet Horwood, who debuts in November, December. But again, a great performance. Andy Gill is one of those trainers, I think, that could be a big up-and-coming name. But Courtney Frimpong definitely going places. Kane Morgan, he made his debut. He was on 4th. He only got a draw with Josh Cook. I mean, Kane was very nervous beforehand. It can affect you. And I think I'm going to speak to Kane tomorrow. We're going to get him out again this year. I think you'll see a better performance second time out. He performed well, but it was Josh Cook is one of these journeymen, Martin. I think you're going to see go for a long time, doesn't get stopped. He's one of these skilled journeymen. And but from Kane's point of view, I think he'll learn a lot. He's very talented, but I think he needed that first one out of the way for him.
Well, I know Dave Evans was impressed by Josh Cook, wasn't he?
Yes, Josh Cook is one of those journeymen that we're going to hear a lot about from the ultra tough Joe Pennington camp. William Warburton used to be. You've got Josh Cook, you've got Neem Ali, you've got plenty of these ones from Joe Pennington. He breeds them tough up there. Then we had a shootout at the OK Corral between Ross McGuigan and Phil Williams. They both come out throwing bombs. And then Ross, who came up to heavyweight for the fight, he dropped Phil in the first round. And then Phil, who really came out to try, and he did try, but I mean, that knocked a bit out of him. And then Ross had the first 2 rounds clearly, then tired, and Phil came on in the last 2 rounds. But it was a really good performance by Phil because he really came and tried. And for Ross McGuigan, he'll learn a tremendous amount from that debut. So I was very impressed with Ross McGuigan. He's another cruiserweight that I think we're going to have a lot of fun with. We then had the William Webber-Robbie Chapman fight because we knew Robbie was coming for it, we said last week. And my God, didn't he put up a real tough performance against William? And William had a really hard fight with him, a really tough contest. He won on the cards 58-56. I mean, he was hurt in the last round. He won the early rounds. Then Robbie came back. It was very, very close. But for William Webber, who's going to go on to title fights, I think it was a real perfect fight for him to. He's been out of the ring for a couple of years, and I think he'll come on along for it. And Robbie Chapman, I definitely think, isn't finished at trying to go for titles or bigger fights if he wants to. So I thought that was.
It was brilliant, actually. It was.
What did you think of the fight?
I thought William won it by a round. I thought 58-56 was fine. I could see it being a draw. Don't have an issue with that. But I did think William won it. But I thought Robbie was exceptional. Coming that end of the fight, he really stuck it on William. And William, and I said it to him afterwards, I said it to his dad, Paul, the same as I'd say now. I thought William, where he was tiring, maybe that's a sign. You know, Robbie's been active over lockdown. William hasn't. It was probably a sign of the fact that he hasn't, but he was tiring in sort of rounds 5 and 6. He was closing his own work down too much. And so he was far too in range for the kind of fighter that he is. He was stepping into the distance and then trying to throw short arm punches into Robbie. It didn't suit Williams' kind of style for me to try and do that. The one thing he's got is he's got a lot of power. He's a skilled fighter, but he's got a lot of power. And I think that had kind of gone a little bit by the end of the fight. And so he was just shortening that distance and trying to make it a bit ugly. But Robbie was starting to come back into it. If that had gone another couple of rounds, I think Robbie could have taken it. But when you say about he was a different Robbie Chapman than all the others, you're right. Like, compared to what he is normally if he's in the away corner, the fact Xavier Miller had turned up on Saturday night to come and cheer him on, that tells you what you were getting out of Robbie Chapman, because Xavier, wouldn't always come to his away corner fights. And Xavier was completely invested in it. Xavier's also Dillian White's coach, but he's taken Robbie through the years at IQ Boxing. And, you could see Xavier was gutted. He was devastated at the end when the result was announced. They were invested in that fight. And I was chatting again with Paul Webber at the end. And he was saying, that version of Robbie that might have turned up, say, for the Jordan Reynolds fight even, that was a different one than turned up for William on Saturday night. And I completely agree. It's a good win. I think it's even better than what it looks on paper to take that win. And, there was certainly stuff that they could work on out of it. I think there were certain flaws that it showed about William that he's still a young man. There's plenty of headroom that he can grow into. I think he will.
And then we had the main event, Adrian Martin against Lewis Surrett for the Southern Area middleweight title. So you saw that fight. So they're both my fighters. Let's have your viewpoint on it.
I thought it was the right result. I thought Lewis won. I thought Adrian won the first 2 to 3 off the top of my head. I thought come the end of that 4th round, I was sat with Chris Lloyd of DAZN, and I was getting Chris's commentary throughout it as well. Chris is an old school friend of Lewis Syrett. So we were chatting as it was going along. After about 4 rounds, I genuinely thought Adrian was going to get stopped, because when he went and sat down, he looked knackered. I thought this is going to be hard work for him to cover the 10 now. So through rounds kind of 5 to 8, I thought Lewis took over. But then Adrian started to get his second wind about round 9-ish. Started to come back in, started to force his own fight again. But yeah, I thought Lewis was the rightful winner by a couple of rounds in that fight. I think Adrian just struggled through those middle rounds. I think that's where he lost the fight overall. But it was cracking. It was great entertainment.
So all in all, I thought we had some really exciting prospects. We had a couple of really good fights at the end of the night, and we now roll on to the 9th of December. But just some other news before we finish. The Jack Hughes Ricky Little fight has now been rescheduled to the 27th of November. Let's hope that Ricky Little turns up and his management are a bit more in control of what is going on, because his management was shocking, and Ricky Little himself is lucky not to get himself in trouble with the board for their behaviour. But it has been rescheduled to the 27th of November. Let's hope he shows up, because if he doesn't, he will be getting the wrath of us and the board on him, I think. So let's hope he turns up this time. So that's good news for Jack, that he's got his title fight rescheduled. But he was training. He was training for a fight with Ricky Little that Ricky Little had no intention whatsoever of filling the date, and they taking the piss out of the management, and the boxer were taking the piss out of Ricky Little, out of Jack Hughes, and we're not happy. So so.
And on that note, shout out to Jack Hughes, by the way, who's been down to both your last 2 fights in the most incredible outfits I've ever seen. But sat ringside through the whole night watching every fight, and then he's gone back and reported on it for Southpaw Jab website.
Full credit.
And he's done really good write-ups on him as well, so go out and find him. But yeah, Jack Hughes, he's an incredible little character. I love him. Yeah, he's grown on me immensely, and that Ricky Little fight, I hope it comes off, and if it does, I'll be there front row supporting you, Jack, like you've supported all the other fighters over the last couple of weeks.
Exactly. And now we've got to look forward to the 9th of October, and Liam Dillon against Dennis Wahome for the English super featherweight title. Yes, I know we're going to cover that in greater detail, but what's your opinion on the outcome of that fight?
Liam Dillon, late stoppage.
Okay.
That'd be my
take. In an exciting fight.
I think it'll be a great fight. And I only say that because I've seen more of Liam than I've seen of Dennis. So by the 9th of October, I'm going to have done more research on Dennis, and I'm going to come back with a more educated view. But as it stands right now, I'm going to go with a Liam Dillon late stoppage.
Okay, so no, it should be the 9th of October. Should be a really good card. Really good card. Look forward to that. Look forward to that. So, should we look ahead to this weekend then?
No, let's cover superstar events before you move on to that.
Oh, you want to
give it a mention on in?
Okay, let's cover that then.
Well, you got a platform. Go for it.
So, superstar events. It's a new Goodwin brainchild. It's going to be headed up by Olivia and Josh. It is all about bringing the world of sport and entertainment to everybody. Venues are going to be arranged around the country, probably more down south. And we start off with 2 events. The first event, or the second event, which is a sporting one, is on the 14th of December, where it's an evening with Perry Groves and Paul Merson of Arsenal. And we plan to do these events from different football teams, Tottenham, Arsenal, obviously Chelsea, West Ham. We're in talks with some big TV personalities to do an evening with them as well. So, just keep a look on the website, superstarevents.co.uk. And we're also doing party evenings where people can come, have tables, have food, go and watch entertainment, and that will go on until the early hours of the morning with a DJ, and it's for very, very, very cheap money. And the first one, we've got the Jersey Boys. We've got a magician from Las Vegas coming over. We've got a saxophonist. We've got circus acts. We've got DJs, champagne receptions. The VIP tables have got hostess and hosts on there. The tables look after them all night. It's a totally different thing. And in this area, which is it's going to be stationed Dunstable, in Dunstable, Milton Keynes, and everywhere, Leighton Buzzard, there's nothing like this that compares with this for an evening. It's unique, and we hope we get the support, because if we get the support, there'll be a lot more of them in this area. If you don't get enough support for that, then we won't continue to do it in this area, because people have screamed that there's nothing in the area of beds and bucks. So we'll now see whether people attend or not.
Yeah, so keep an eye out. Social media posts, they'll be put out. The website is superstarevents.co.uk. There'll be lots of posts about it, but yeah, keep an eye out for December, for the November one, for the night out with the Jersey Boys.
Yeah,
it'll be good fun.
And there was also going to be some boxing evenings as well, lined up specifically with boxing evenings. I'm hoping for the first one, the football one, the Mercer Groves will have Linus Udofia there as well to give some signed merchandise away. So that's really the plan. We will incorporate to give some of our fighters the chance of appearing at these events and getting to mix with the audiences and generating their fan base, because we've got big screens there, so we're showing fights of some of our fighters' fights on there. So there will be a big interlinking with our fighters. So as time goes on, when all these big sporting stars will be bringing our fighters in to get them known to the crowds as well. So there's a little bit of boxing involved within the whole event as well. So it's going to be good.
You weave it all together.
Exactly. But also the events have got a very good host as well, haven't they, Martin? Going to be asking all the questions of the sporting people there.
So I've heard. Yeah, I will be lending myself for the evening to come and ask questions. Yeah, I just want to ask questions because, I grew up watching Merson, watching Groves, some of the other names that we've discussed. I've grown up watching all these people on a football pitch. Like, to sit there and ask them questions about not just what went on in that game, but what went on in the changing rooms, what went on in the training ground the weeks beforehand, what was the atmosphere like, what was it like, when you got off the pitch? Those are the things that people care about, not the results. It's the why element of it.
Exactly that. So even if you're not an Arsenal fan, come along to the first one. Give us some support for on the football 14th of December at Dunstable. But try and come along and support it, because for all you boxing people, there's going to be a big benefit for our boxers with these events, because the more events we stage, the more opportunity there are for our boxers to get out. And I think it's going to be a unique opportunity for our boxers to develop a lot bigger fan base.
Yeah. And how many people go, oh, what do you want for Christmas? You got no idea. I have no idea what I want. Well, now you do. You want a ticket to go and watch Paul Merson and Perry Groves get grilled by me.
Exactly. And then next year, there'll be the same sort of things in London and in Dunstable again with different teams and different players. And we're hoping to have that all announced next month with all the shows for next year. So you'll be able to go onto the site and buy tickets for Christmas for these events for next year.
Blinding. Right. Anyway, that's that plug done. What are we on to? This weekend, AJ Usyk. Do you want to discuss the undercard?
Yeah, I do, because I think there's a potential betting opportunity in the undercard.
Do you? What is it? So, all right, so we got Marku versus Prodan.
That's where the betting opportunity is.
Okay, what are we going with?
Now let's look at this. I want to get this out, so I don't want people to say, who is the most likely winner? Florian Marku is the most likely winner of that fight, okay? But Prodan's not a 5-1 chance. It's too big, far too big. So Prodan at 5-1 represents value. He's probably, that is saying, you are saying at 5-1 that he's only got about, I think without doing the maths, he's only a 17% chance of winning. He has a much bigger chance than that of winning, without a shadow of a doubt, in my opinion. 16.6% chance. He's got a bigger chance than 16% of winning that fight. We've got to understand that Florian is very talented, and I've often said that I think he's got great talent. But what I would say is this: the first true welterweight that Florian has faced. He did struggle a bit with Ryland Charlton. He was put down in the 6th. He drew before to Jamie Stewart. So what we've got to say is the actual ring performances, and remember, Jamie Stewart was a journeyman. He drew, although I think he won it, he only got given a draw. But Ryland Charlton gave him troubles. Now he's only a light welter. Now this guy is a 19-0-1 welterweight. Now the height bubble's gone too far, if you know what I mean, in the odds. If Florian was 1-2 and Prodan was 2-1, you'd be going, yeah, that's about right, because Florian's the most likely winner, probably. 5-1's crazy. So I will be having a bet on Prodan at 5-1, but I will be, if you take the betting hat off, I like Florian and I'd like to see him win. But I don't bet with my heart, I bet with my head. So therefore, I think that's the wrong price. So I think 5-1. Same thing as I had with that bet the other week we told everybody about. I had a really big bet on Arsenal to finish in the top half at 1-2 because the odds were wrong. Then I 1-4, 1-5. Why didn't I back it at 1-2? Because the odds were wrong. Why am I backing Prodan at 5-1? Because the odds are wrong. People don't understand betting. Betting isn't about getting the result right. It's about knowing when the value is right. So therefore, for me, the bet this weekend, Prodan 5-1, not for big stakes, but a few quid on Prodan at 5-1.
All right, like it. Yeah, I don't know a lot about Prodan. He fought Tony Dixon, didn't he, out in Italy not too long back? Yeah, I don't know a lot about him outside of that.
He beat Tony. He beat him in a split decision, so it proves he's no superstar. Prodan, he's definitely no superstar. But then, if you put Tony Dixon in with Florian, you wouldn't have Florian at 5-1 on to beat Tony Dixon. You wouldn't.
Yeah.
The odds are wrong. So bearing in mind that that was in Milan, I presume Tony Dixon probably won that fight. But he's also beaten Steve Jamoy and everything else. And I've watched him fight, and I think my view is that Florian probably beats him. But the hype behind Florian is far in excess of what he's actually achieving in the professional ring, if you follow me so far. He needs to improve to just drawing the fight with Jamie Stewart and the fight with Ryland Charlton does not justify the other opponent being 5-1 against. That's it.
I think that's fair. We've got Lawrence Okoli defending his WBO title against a mandatory that, again, if I don't remember it, I don't know who it is.
He's a mandatory that has done nothing really to be mandatory. Let's just leave it like that. It's a walkover fight. He can only beat what's in front of him. But he's not.
It seems like an opportunity to get that fight out of the way and then move on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, he'll win easily. He'll win easily. Callum Smith, that's a walkover fight, and that's it really. And then you've got a guy from America called Christopher Usyk, who I don't even know who he is. Campbell Hatton, who really, I don't want to comment about that. And then you've got another kid from the Ukraine, Daniel Lepan. It's not much of a card. The only two fights that really have any interest are the Prodan marker and the Joshua Usyk. To me, that's how it is.
But that's all right. That's all. I don't have an issue with it not having an undercard of any great note because the main event is fantastic.
So good. I agree with you. Yeah, I agree.
And I don't think that main event has had the credit that it deserves. I think it's an incredible main event. I think it's an incredibly hard fight for Joshua. I don't know who wins.
Do you not think it's going to be? Do you not think it's going to be too big?
No, and I know the obvious one to cite is the Usyk versus Joyce fight back in the amateurs, where Usyk kind of rocked Joyce and had him all over the place in the World Series of Boxing. But I think Usyk will cause him all sorts of trouble. And I think he'll be wise. We know what it's going to be. The first 2 to 3 rounds, as long as Usyk gets out of them okay, then he'll start to, the machine will kick in at that point. He'll start to use his own pressure. I think if it goes into the 8th, 9th round, I think Joshua could be in trouble. But that relies upon Usyk getting that far, and I don't know if he will.
I think it's a really good fight, though. Really good fight.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Who do you reckon wins?
Neither result would shock me because I'm not that big a fan of Joshua. That's my thing. I'm not sold on him. I think when you get a mover with fast hands, he's in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just look at what I feel so rough. Look at what Andy Ruiz did to him with fast hands. And now you turn that into southpaw Usyk coming in from underneath that long jab and that stretching right hand. I think he'll cause him all sorts of problems, and that's why I think it's such a good fight.
Reach advantage though, Joshua, hasn't he? So Usyk's got to get in there. But look, I think what
are the odds?
I think it's about 2.5 to 1 on Joshua. Is it?
I'm going to look it up now. I'm intrigued because
he's
9 to 4 Usyk.
Yeah, so 2.5 on to 1. Yeah, so as I said, 2.5 on to 1. Joshua, yeah, and yeah, 2 to. No, he's bigger than that. Usyk, he's 5 to 2. Yeah, he's nearly 5 to 2 in a play.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's too wide on him.
Could be right. I mean, it's not. It's. Again, you see what you get here is the odds are shorter on the home fighters, like the Mark, like the Joshua. That's just normal because most people in Britain are not going to back against Joshua, as in most people in Britain will probably back Marku. So, that does make the other fighters bigger odds than they perhaps should be. I mean, you get 9, just over 9 to 4. It's 12 to 5. It is Usyk at the best price.
Yeah, well, I just think it's a cracking fight. I think whether Usyk wins or loses, I don't know, but it doesn't feel like it should be that wide to me. But yeah, if Joshua wins, he needs to get the credit for beating the man who has stepped up from undisputed cruiserweight, has always been in the away corner, always had the odds kind of against him to some degree. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Usyk, and if Joshua beats him, he should get the credit for it.
Agreed. Oh, so it's good night ahead on Saturday. 2 good fights, plus a couple of exhibitions from McCauley and Smith, really. So
yeah. All right, let's move on. We've got some questions before I fall asleep because I'm still feeling rough. Where are we? We've got loads. From the name Willis on Twitter. Sort of a question. I attended my first Goodwin card on Saturday, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I would encourage people to attend. Though, what I want to know is, will you be doing all Eddie Hearn in the future and wearing full-on Dolce & Gabbana clobber?
It's not my style, is it? Will he be?
I don't know. I remember being out in Latvia with you, and you rocked up in some, I can't remember what shoes they were, like Prada slippers or something, and a tracksuit.
Yeah, I do wear them. That is true.
What the fuck are you wearing? But you made it work, and you were happy with it. So it may not be the D&G PJs of Eddie Hearn, but
yeah, I do wear that. I've got these new ones, these new shoes with tassels on them now. I've got a brown pair and a black pair, and they go well with tracksuits and no shoes and all that. Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah,
I suppose I still do it. Maybe I'll wear them for the 9th. Maybe I'll wear them for the 9th of October then.
Do it. If the name is Wills, who, by the way, has been a podcast listener for a long time of various things, and I didn't actually meet him Saturday, and we didn't realise we were probably sat about 50 yards apart. And anyway, next time we'll meet up. But yeah, you have to wear your Prada slippers for the occasion.
That'll do, no problem.
But yeah, wearing them out in the snow in the middle of Latvia.
That is true. That is true.
Bet or Q on Twitter. 3 domestic names you as a manager would match Linus and Brad Pauls up with next.
Well, Linus is already matched next. So he's fighting Julio Venosi, which is perfect.
But if you had to go domestic names...
Brian Rose. We're building him. We're not looking I'm looking to match them well. And for Brad, I'd have Brian Rose as well. I think somebody that's a big name, fading, perfect. So, you know, but Brad's not going to fight again on Wasserman's till December, January. So, but Linus will have dealt with Vernozzi by then on the 2nd of October. Yeah, but someone like Brian Rose would do, domestic wise. I'm not chasing. You know, we got a contract which is enabling us to develop them and under the lights and to pick the right fights at the right time, and that's what we do all the time with our fighters. You know, we're not there to put them in fights that the promoters are necessarily wanting. We want to give something that the promoters will be happy with, but we've got to look after our fighters. You know, we're building, and that's what we're doing. And Linus has got the perfect fight. It's no pushover. I think the guy's 17-3. Got a good record, but for Linus, it's the right fight. But yeah, I'd like to see Brad in with Brian Rose, to be honest.
Yeah. All right, we'll cover the Brad fight. The Linus fight next week as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Steve's thoughts on TV shows clashing in the wake of Chisora Parker clashing with Josh Taylor and Jack Cattrall.
But that's going to happen. That happens. This is something that's happened for the last 30 years, isn't it? Promoters won't ever work together. They won't ever try and avoid each other. So it's just something we all have to live with. It's not ideal, but then football matches clash together. Teams, you know, it's just how it works. But with boxing, I'm afraid these promoters don't work together, and that's just something we all have to live with. That's it.
But it's going to happen more now. It was Sky and BT. It's now Sky, DAZN and BT.
Oh, exactly. So you're just going to have to accept there's going to be clashes.
This isn't a question anyone sent in, but what do you make of the Joshua Matchroom lifelong promotion agreement they've got now?
Well, I don't know the details, but I would imagine what's happened is Joshua's gone and said, look, I'm going to promote my own events now. I'm not going to sign my promotional over to you, but we can work together on it and do a joint promotion, but I'm going to be in control of my promotional events. Basically, what happens when they get that big, they want to promote themselves, don't they? Hay used to do it. I think Khan did it. So Joshua wants to do it, but he's rather than dump Matchroom to the side, he's kept them in. But I'm sure the financial deal is exactly what Joshua wants.
I think it makes so much sense in that they've both done very well for one another over the years, and Matchroom can provide the logistics for Joshua.
Exactly. So I'm sure they both end up working well out of it, and I think it's a good move for both. And I'm sure that Joshua's, you know, that Matchroom will have had to have played the game. Because if they let Joshua loose, they're losing their prize asset.
Yeah, but it's good to see the loyalty as well, because that's not something you get in boxing.
I agree.
Ross Newton on Twitter. Question for you both. What do you make of the return of Dave Allen on Fight Zone after announcing his retirement in November last year when he said, quote, "I'm not a fighter anymore. I've had the fight beaten out of me."
Once a fighter does that, he shouldn't really be fighting again. Dave Allen changes his. Like, you know Dave, but he's a really nice guy. But he's not got any consistency. He doesn't appear in any aspect of his life, and that's not great.
I think he shouldn't be fighting. I'll leave it there. That's my view, and what I think, and we'll come on to this actually later. What I think is almost sad about it is that the name will be used to boost somebody else in the future, which is what happens in sport and happens in boxing. I understand that, but this is someone who's openly declared that they didn't want to be a boxer anymore. And I think that's what I have an issue with.
I agree.
Highfield Boxing on Twitter, my friend Terry's gone off on one this week. We've got 4 questions from him, so let's fire through them.
Let's go.
Questions. They're all good questions, to be fair. Would a closed-off boxing promotion work, much like the UFC? Sack off the current belts. Fans have to be members or subscribers, and they can call for fights. The requirement for now is for second to the desire to be entertained. This might be the time to do it.
Okay, so who's going to... Okay, so that's fine. Is he talking about that for the big promoters, or he's talking about that for small promoters?
I would assume at the top level, based upon the comparison with the UFC.
Yeah, I think it would be a better spectacle. Don't disagree. It would mean that No, I think there's no doubt that you get much better fights doing that.
I mean, PBC went down that route, didn't they? Where they started to, it's going back 3 or 4 years now, but they started to try and cut out the belts. Like when they were promoting fights, it was more about the fights and not the belts. And there were rumors that Al Heyman was going to bring in his own titles, and it never quite happened. I mean, the problem is, you know, how if you go back to the question, would a closed-off boxing promotion work? They're pretty closed off already, aren't they? Really, it's
they're closed in segments. Yeah, I mean, but you're not getting the best fights, are you? And I think that's what Terry's getting across. He wants to see the proper fights rather than, you know, these.
Which is fine, but you need either PBC or Matchroom or Golden Boy to go bust, don't you? Really, and for all those talents to become available. Get signed up under the same umbrella. Yeah,
whilst they're all under contract to everybody. But in theory, you see, what he's saying is absolutely bang on, isn't it?
100%.
But the practicalities of implementing it are a bit more problematic.
So, I mean, this kind of links into the point I was just making, I suppose. Question. A signal for the fall of empires is usually when the group accepts anything and the objective standards drop. Are we seeing the start of a boxing recession?
Not really, because attendances are still through the roof. I think the only thing you could talk about recession is whether the money is stopping ploughing into the sport. And you've got a lot of money coming into the sport. You've got more networks, more pay-per-views.
But I think he means are we seeing the start of the boxing recession? I think he means it from a sporting perspective more than.
Well, you mean from what, the quality of fights? You mean?
Yeah, as he says, you know, the fall of empires is when the group accepts anything. And let's be honest, like the zone launch schedule isn't.
Well, yeah, it's not a great look. You're segmenting. Once Hearn goes and Sky go and Warren goes and Hennessy goes. You are segmenting a UK boxing boxing platform into various different promoters, and it's not got enough talent to support that many promoters at a good level. So what happens is the quality on each of those starts to diminish. So that's true, but that's going to happen. That is what's going to happen. But then the public will probably still accept it. So it may be a recession in terms of quality, but it probably won't be a recession in terms of money.
I'd go as far as to say, this might be a controversial view. If you took every TV fighter from all the different networks, Channel 5, DAZN, Matchroom, DAZN, Matchroom together, BT, Sky, you could just about scrape together enough of a product that's worthy of one platform. And so to break them up into 5 different providers is almost, you know, sporting suicide to some degree. But, you know, it will still survive. Of course it will survive. It's, you know, whatever that looks like in 5 years, I don't know, but it will survive as a sport. But it doesn't help to have everything segmented and broken up. Another question from Terry. Should Adrian Martin be at middleweight? He could grow into the weight class, but it was a challenge on Saturday.
Well, it was decision of him and his trainer, Brian O'Shaughnessy. They insisted he's a middleweight, insisted he wanted to go up. Because remember, he had an English title eliminator at super welterweight against Sean Robinson that he could have fulfilled. He chose to bin that off and move up to middleweight because they said he was a middleweight. So as a manager, if your trainer and your boxer is telling us it's not safe for him to box at super middleweight, he wants to be a middleweight, you don't question. That's not for me to question. I just fulfilled the wishes, and we did fulfill the wish on Saturday, and he lost.
Yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, my view, he'd be better at 154 than 160, Adrian. But I don't know Adrian's body, and if he struggled again,
I did ask him that question after the fight as well, and he said, "No, I'm a 160 fighter." So on that basis, he's deciding that's not whether I think he's better at one fight, at 154, or whether he should be. That's not my remit. Remember, that's what you have professional trainers for in conjunction, to make those decisions.
Yeah, Adrian knows it better than anyone else, I suppose.
Yeah.
Final question from Terry. I think this is following up, and I know Terry watches each week, so he'll drop me a voice message about stuff that we've discussed. So here's one following up from what we discussed the other week. Has there ever been a bigger small hall fight than Dominic Akinlade versus John Pilata?
So what? Dominic Akinlade will weigh about 19 stone. John Pilata will be 18 stone, 37 stone. We need to go back and do the rep. We need to do back and do the reps to see if there've been two heavier fighters.
Take that for what you like. It's a good fight, though. I like that fight. Really good.
Do you know what? Will I watch it? Yeah, I'll watch that fight. But when you say bigger, it can't be in terms of, with all due respect to both lads, we can't be talking in terms of quality of fight, because Dominic is way, way, way past his best. And John,
the loser's done, isn't they? Really, let's be honest about it.
To be fair, you'd probably say that this is a resurrection opportunity for both, because as they stand today, they're both technically, when I say done, and both are nice people, so I've got no issue with them. But I'm just saying, really, it's their World Cup, and it's their World Cup.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And good luck to the winner. Good luck to the winner, and it'd be an interesting fight to watch. I think I'm not even sure who wins, to be honest. I'm not even sure who wins. But Jonathan Pilata should win, but I don't. But he's not really fulfilled his promise, and he's had, since he left us where he was undefeated and going in a good place, things have not worked out well for him. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think it'll be a cracking fight, just because of what's on the line for both.
Oh, 100%. The winner's going to have a chance of a crack at something bigger, and the loser's definitely got to retire.
Yep. Azza on Twitter. Will small hall boxing ever be the same again? Every week it seems like small hall promoters are given another hurdle or less help to putting shows on with some sort of ease of normality. So will it ever be the same again?
No. Can't be, because we can't do what we, from our point of view, it can't be what we used to do, putting on bumper cards, starting in the afternoon, running into the evening. No, that's finished. Will it ever be the same again in terms of, will it go back? I think if it doesn't, then boxing, then, as we covered before, if they don't allow some sort of loosening of their rules, then small hall boxing, definitely in the south of England, will definitely never be the same again. Definitely never be the same again. So the answer is no, it won't be the same again. But whether it can be at a level that it doesn't collapse will depend on the board rulings and rules over the next few months.
Yeah. A question from Tartin Meerbold. Should fighters be allowed to sell tickets on the secondary market for big fights?
We are referring to a certain female world champion.
I don't know who Tartin Meerbold's talking about here, but
touting tickets on Twitter. Absolutely disgusting. Now, somebody somewhere, that person who's doing this, and it's not going to be hard to work out who, needs a real examination of her head, because she's already unpopular enough without doing that and putting them on higher prices than they are on at StubHub. There's already the problem from a promotional outfit where there's been allegations of fighters getting these tickets and flogging them on for more money, and they've always been in denial. And there she is doing it openly. She's doing it for a friend. What's that? The teddy bear in the corner of her room, is that her friend who's sitting with the tickets in their lap? Because it's obvious that she's got the tickets. She's trying to sell them for a big profit. It's in really bad taste. It's really disgusting, and it's not the first time she's done something that's really, really bad.
Yeah, I'll call it. So it's Shannon Courtney on her Instagram page selling tickets to Joshua Usyk at £1,400 for tickets at a £450 face value, and you can still get them on StubHub, like StubHub, which is fucking horrendous for up pricing of tickets. You can get them on there for like 780, 800 quid, something like that, for the same block. And yet she's out there on Instagram selling them for a friend for £1,400.
Doesn't it show a lack of intelligence apart from anything else?
The lack of integrity, a lack of intelligence. And when you've got, okay, so take it back to every IFL interview where Hearn's quizzed on StubHub, Hearn's quizzed on ticket touting. He's always got this hardline stance. Never done anything about it, mind, but always got the hardline stance that ticket touting is terrible. People that do it should have their tickets taken away. They should not be allowed to buy any more tickets in the future. Da, 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 da. Here, in plain sight, in HD vision, you've got a fighter offering to sell tickets on the secondary market for a friend. Now what's the action? Because we've all seen the pictures of it. Now what's the action? What happens when you know you've got it? You know, I can send a screenshot if Eddie needs it. You can see somebody who's trying to flog tickets at higher than face value, 3 times higher than face value. What's the upshot of it? What happens? Because we've been told that, you know, people that have these, they shouldn't be allowed to buy tickets in the future, should be banned from events, blah, blah, blah. One of them's going to fight on your cards. So what's the outcome? Because it's disgusting. StubHub is a premise. It's disgusting. I appreciate Matchroom have a limited ability of what they can do to challenge it. But now you've got it in plain sight. What do you do about it? Nothing will be my guess. And I think it's atrocious. And I think, you know, say it as it is, Courtney, that is absolutely piss poor. Anyway. Azza on Twitter again. DAZN BT thoughts. How could Sky compete with that if there's already a discussion as to how they will compete with DAZN with standalone boxing? So this about DAZN buying up BT Sports. Whether they get the Premier League rights has some dependency upon Sky Sports allowing it to happen, essentially. But yeah, what do you think to it if DAZN were to buy BT and everything that comes with it?
If they get the lot, well, the first thing is it's going to enable DAZN to. It's probably DAZN's only chance. I think. I don't think DAZN can survive in the UK with boxing only. So
no,
just it's not as a product. It's not good enough. So I think they need to acquire football if they're going to have any chance of breaking through. So, but I'm not sure it bothers Sky that much, because if DAZN just take the football off BT, then there's no difference to the status quo as it is now. It just gives DAZN a chance of getting a bigger share of the market. More interesting to me would be what happens with the boxing, because I can't imagine Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren working together. But as far as Sky is concerned, I don't think it makes a scrap of difference.
Yeah, I think at the moment, DAZN, as it stands today, DAZN aren't a competition to Sky Sports.
No.
They're just not, because having boxing as a standalone product isn't a viable alternative to Sky Sports. There's a very small niche market that appeals to.
Yeah.
If they get the Premier League rights, then that expands, and the Champions League rights. But if they were to get BT Sports without football, if they just got their boxing stable, the rugby, I don't even know what else they show, to be honest, then I don't think it does an awful lot for them. They need football to be able to expand their reach.
I don't see any point in them taking over the Warren boxing programs. Don't see what that does. Just don't see it.
No, I agree. I don't know what you would do with it.
But again, I presume Frank Warren's under contract. It's a very interesting thing, because I can't see Eddie and Frank working together. I just cannot see that happening, working side by side. I can't see it. And then, yeah, I presume Frank Warren has got a contract for a certain amount of years. He'll want his money if he gets binned off. But maybe they'll just pay him off. I don't know.
Yeah, don't know. I mean, Hearn certainly fits the DAZN model better than Warren in terms of you look at what DAZN are publicly. It's Joe Markowski. He's very kind of hip, young businessman.
Yeah,
that dovetails quite well with Eddie Hearn as a kind of more appealing to the younger generation than it would Warren. Warren has his hardcore boxing fraternity that will forever back him, and good on him for that. Hearn has cultivated a different marketplace. Exactly. I think that's what the zone will play into.
Be interested to see how it pans out.
Final question from my friend Riku. Has the board relaxed its license process by allowing Lucas Brown to fight in the UK? Could this be a sign of things to come where the board tries to entice YouTubers and ex-fighters to fight on UK soil rather than abroad?
No. The board have always allowed 40-odd-year-olds to come over on TV shows. If it was on a small hall show, you would struggle to get a 40-plus-year-old over. But they have a more relaxed attitude towards, not officially, but they have a more relaxed attitude towards the TV shows. Now, I'm not criticising them for that because that's what generates the money, right? So, and he's been at a high level. These type of fighters are fought at a high level. If you get a 40-odd-year-old journeyman from Latvia, probably not wise to let him loose in the UK. But in this instance, I don't think Lucas Brown should be allowed here. After his last performance, I don't think Lucas Brown should be allowed in the UK. I think they've made a mistake allowing Lucas Brown to come over.
I think it's a terrible decision to let him fight Alan Babic. Alan Babic, he's not the hardest punching heavyweight in the world, but what he is he's a bruiser, isn't he? He's an absolute, he'll go in and club the life out of you.
I mean, Brown goes in one or two, probably in one.
Yeah, he will batter Lucas Brown. And Lucas Brown is 42 years old. He just got beaten up by an ex-rugby league player who's got no experience in a boxing ring, or no real experience in a boxing ring. Yeah. He got beaten by Dave Allen last time he was over here.
Yeah, But they won't. By the way, they won't allow YouTubers though. There's no way the British Boxing Board will allow YouTubers. They'll allow this, but they won't go as far to allow YouTubers.
Yeah, I think this is different to a YouTube. This is an ex-world champion in air quotes. Lucas Brown has never been that good, and that's fine. Like, he's always been fun to watch, but I think back to the Kamil Sokolowski fight they had up in Scotland, and he got dropped by Sokolowski and lost that fight, but won it on paper. Then gets beaten by Dave Allen, beaten up by Dave Allen. And then he's gone off and won somewhere. I can't remember where it was. Then he gets beaten by this rugby league player. He's turned 42 years old. He's clearly lost all punch resistance. What on earth is he doing being allowed in with Alan Babic, who, let's say, he's not the biggest puncher, but he will obliterate Lucas Brown. And whenever the odds are released on that, rounds 1 to 2, just whack your mortgage on it. Just, that is a mess.
I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't allow the same thing on a small hall equivalent. And I think it's an error to allow this to happen. He could get hurt, Brown. He could get hurt.
Yeah, he could. He really could. And I think it also raises questions. The referees are whoever referees that fight will have to be ready to jump in very quickly. Like, whether that's the right thing then to do or not, to be aware and to be looking to jump in very quickly, because his punch resistance has gone. That Paul Gallen fight showed that his punch resistance has gone.
Agreed.
And therefore, as a referee, it's your job to protect the fighter. As the board, it should be your job to protect the well-being of the fighter. This isn't protecting the well-being of a fighter. And I do wonder, if it was a British fighter, would they allow it to go ahead? Would they allow a 42-year-old who's just been knocked out by a rugby league player to fight against an up-and-coming heavyweight?
I would imagine if he was British licensed, he may have his license taken away.
But it's okay because they're flying him over from Australia to get his head pounded in by Alan Babic. I find it quite sickening, really. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Just hope he doesn't get.
I do like Dillian White, Otto Wallin, though. I think that's a cracking fight.
Oh, do you like that?
Yeah, I do. Fair play to Hearn, Matchroom, DAZN for getting that together.
No, that's a good fight. No, I do like that fight.
Yeah, just bin the undercard though, because that's horrendous.
I haven't even seen the undercard. Apart from this one. Yeah, I've seen this one.
Yeah, that's all I know of the undercard. Bin it. It shouldn't be allowed to happen. It's the wrong decision for me. Anyway, that's boxing for you. If it isn't, I don't know. Maybe I'll get tickets and sell them off at 4 times face value for it. Let's see.
Seems to be the one.
Yeah.
But you know what? No, genuinely serious. I've watched those Eddie Hearn interviews. He should now, on the basis of all those interviews that he's had with Coogan and everybody else, he should now take action against Shannon Courtney. And if he doesn't, he is then, doesn't matter what he ever says in the future, he is then endorsing StubHub, the resell, and the fans getting ripped off. He's endorsing it if he doesn't do anything about it.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with it. And I got called a transformer duvet wanker because for a long period of time, I went on about the issues of StubHub and Matchroom. And, you know, that prompted Hearn to say, I'm a transformer duvet wanker. Now it's your turn, Eddie, to do something about it. Deal with it. Your fighter, your world champion, your female world champion is out there flogging tickets above face value. It's your turn to deal with it.
Exactly that. Exactly.
I bet you it doesn't happen. I bet she still fights on that Liverpool undercard for Smith Fowler. I would put good money on it that I'm going to make from selling tickets 4 times face value. I find it horrific. I really do. I think it's quite sickening for boxing fans that are trying to attend these events, that they see the people who are, you know, fighting on the events profiting from it. I think it's horrible.
Great.
Anyway, small hall boxing's back. That's the important thing. October 2nd, 10th, sorry.
9th. October 2nd, Linus Udofia at Wembley.
Yeah.
And we're then back on the 9th.
Yeah, so we're going to cover Linus next weekend, or next week.
Yeah.
And his fight at Wembley on the Chris Eubank Jr. undercard. And yeah, then we'll come on to Dylan versus Wahome the week after that.
Brilliant. Cheers, Martin.
Cracking. Excellent. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Take care. Be good. Cheers for watching.